Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my on-demand for Monday, March 30th. Today we are going to be studying Rimsky-Korsakov, Flight of the Bumblebee. You're going to be listening to that piece in a moment. Our introduction would normally send me the definition of the Romantic era in music, and you know we've been studying the Romantic era for several weeks now. Rimsky-Korsakov was a composer during the Romantic era. Our objectives: you'll become familiar with Rimsky-Korsakov's life and his music, identify the story behind the opera Tsar of Sultan, identify the chromatic scale and how it was used in Flight of the Bumblebee. Nikolai Andreyevich Rimsky-Korsakov was born in the Russian town of Tikhvin. During his childhood, Nikolai enjoyed listening to Russian folk songs, church music, and opera. When he was older, Nikolai followed his brother to the Naval College in St. Petersburg. While he was there, he also studied music. Rimsky-Korsakov composed his first symphony while on a Navy ship. After he left the Navy, Rimsky-Korsakov was asked to teach at the St. Petersburg Conservatory. Oh no, ignore that. Which is now named for him. Rimsky-Korsakov wrote operas, choral music, chamber music, and works for piano. One of his most famous pieces is Flight of the Bumblebee from the opera Tsar Sultan. In the opera, the music is played when a prince disguises himself as a bee. And you probably heard this piece before because they use it a lot in different commercials. I believe Windex commercial uses this. Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov was born March 18, 1844. He died July 21st, 1908. He was a Russian composer. During his childhood, he often listened to Russian folk songs, church music, and operas. He was also a talented piano player. When he was older, Rimsky-Korsakov followed his brother to the Naval College at St. Petersburg, where he took more piano lessons. He composed his first symphony while on his ship, a Navy ship. Nikolai left the Navy to teach at the St. Petersburg Conservatory, which is now called Rimsky-Korsakov Conservatory. He was well respected by his students, which included Igor Stravinsky, another great composer. The Mighty Five. He also became part of the group of the five famous Russian composers. They were called the Mighty Handful or the Mighty Five. Throughout his life, Nikolai wrote operas, choral music, chamber music, and works for the piano. His most famous piece is Flight of the Bumblebee, which is a song about a prince who disguises himself as a bee. Rimsky-Korsakov was very good at using instruments of the orchestra to create pictures and stories. In Flight of the Bumblebee, he used the string family to create a musical bumblebee. But this is no ordinary insect. This bee is really a prince. The music comes from Rimsky-Korsakov's opera, The Tale of Tsar Sultan. In the story, a magic swan turns the prince into a bumblebee so that he can visit Tsar Sultan without being seen. When you listen to the music, imagine a bumblebee flying around the Tsar and then quickly flying away so it doesn't get caught. And we're going to listen to it in a second here. And here it is. So you could really hear the B sound, and he uses the chromatic scale in order to create that kind of a fast, buzzy sound that the B makes. Various instruments play the music in this piece, and as you saw, we saw the flutes, the violins, and a group of strings. How does the composer make the B buzz? He writes a series of notes that are all the same, then puts an accent on the next one that is just a bit higher. Another way that Rimsky-Korsakov makes it sound as if the B is flying around is by using the chromatic note pattern. This means that the notes are played very close to one another in pitch. If you have a piano, you can play a chromatic scale by pressing both the white keys and the black keys in ascending or descending order. The chromatic scale is a musical scale with 12 pitches, each a semitone above or below another. Watch this clip on the chromatic scale. I have that uploaded separately for you in Brain Honey, but as you can see, it goes up by half steps, do, di, re, mi, fa, fi, so, si, whatever, all the way up and down. But it goes up half steps and down half steps, and if you play it very, 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 very fast, it kind of does create that sound of the flight of the bumblebee. It's really incredible how he did that. Listen to the tale of the Tsar Sultan. And this is also in Brain Honey for you. This is the Classics for Kids recording. And you'll need to be listening for the answers to, there were 3 sisters featured in the tale, true or false. The sisters became jealous and said that the one sister had given birth to a monster, true or false. Name one way Korsakov creates the sound of the B, and we talked about the chromatic scale, and that was one way he did it. The prince saved the life of a beautiful butterfly, is that true or false? And the princess was the beautiful swan, true or false? Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and play that for you now so that I know that you have heard it.
Hello, welcome to Classics for Kids. I'm Naomi Lewin. Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov wrote The Flight of the Bumblebee for an opera called The Tale of Tsar Sultan. Actually, that's just the Reader's Digest abridged version of the title. The full Monty is The Legend of Tsar Sultan, of his son, the famous and mighty hero Prince Kvidan Sultanovich, and of the beautiful Swan Princess. If that title weren't enough, the plot is one of the most complicated in all of operadom, and that's saying a lot. The Tale of Tsar Sultan is based on a story by the great Russian poet Alexander Pushkin. Once upon a time, 3 sisters sat around discussing what they would do if they were married to the Tsar. That's Russian for ruler of the country. The first sister said she would make a huge feast. The second sister said she would weave beautiful cloth, and the third sister said she would bear Tsar Sultan a strong, brave son. The Tsar was listening in on the conversation and promptly married the sister who said she'd bear him a son. Then he told the feast sister she could be the palace cook, and the cloth sister that she could be the royal weaver. They were not amused. Pretty soon, the newly married Tsarina, or Mrs. Tsar, was expecting a child. But before the baby was born, her husband had to go off to war. After the Tsar left, the Tsarina had a baby boy, known as the Tsarevich, or son of Tsar. The Tsarina sent her husband a message saying that they'd had a beautiful, healthy son, but her jealous sisters substituted a different message saying that she'd given birth to a monster. When he heard that, the Tsar was very unhappy and sent back a message saying not to do anything until he got home. But the sisters intercepted that message too, and substituted one saying that the Tsarina and her son should be...
Okay, so you need to watch the rest of that on your own because the screencast can only let me go up to 15 minutes. You have the music that we heard in class. You have the Classics for Kids sound clip to listen to. The chromatic scale, you need to watch that. And you can take the Rimsky-Korsakov quiz, which is due April 1st. And it's 5 questions from this PowerPoint. So if you can't watch or hear anything, you still have to take the quiz. Use the PowerPoint for help. I will see you after spring break. Have a wonderful spring break, everybody. Take care. Thank you.